Hey everybody, this is Christina from Triathlon Mommy, Dastrom Run Clubs, and Dastrom Coaching, and I help moms rediscover, redefine what is possible for themselves, for their kids, for their family, and for their communities. And today I am super excited because I have my dear friend Jo Stone, who is from Australia. So her accent is just, for somebody like me, amazing. And Jo is the founder and owner of Blissful Breadwinners. So she works with women who are the breadwinners of their families. And I wanted to bring her in here today because I think it doesn't matter what scale you are, right? If you're a corporate executive and you're in charge of your family's finances, or you're a stay-at-home mom and you're trying to figure out how to pay the bills, I think the issues when we get to the core of it are the same. And I have learned a lot from Jo. So I asked her if she would come in here and just talk to us a little bit about this. And she graciously agreed. So thank you so much, Jo, for being here.
You're welcome. And I know you say I have an accent, but you have an accent. So you're the one who talks funny, not me.
Of course. But you know what's funny? My even my iPhone, my kids put it in Australian Siri. So that's how much I understand that. Yeah. So I get that. Anyways, so Jo, tell me, what when a mom comes to you, what is she usually struggling with that you have to kind of because I find that sometimes they think they're struggling with oh, I have so much stress, but it's really about something else. So how do you dive there?
So usually most people come to me and they're dealing with what I would call these surface level problems that many mums have all the time. So they're usually exhausted because they're trying to do everything for everybody else. Their health is usually breaking in some way, shape, or form because they have no time for themselves. If they do find any time for themselves, they feel guilty. And it might be, that they have the massage and that's wonderful, but then they walk back in and see the kids, and with 5 seconds later they're fighting, and all that beautiful zen that you had from the massage just goes out the window, and it's like you never had it. So this exhaustion, there's a lot of guilt, no time for themselves. And ultimately what that really boils back to, when we kind of pull back the curtain and unravel all those surface level issues, is that they just don't know how to be kind to themselves and don't know how to put themselves first. Usually because they have a lot of rules set up about this is how life needs to be. If I'm a mum, a good mum sacrifices herself. A good mum puts her kids first. And there's no way I want to be a good mum, because we never have children thinking, I know I'm going to be the worst mum I can be. Everybody is trying to do their best. So the more because that's what society and our parents and our mothers have told us, that it's selfish to look after yourself and it's selfish to put yourself first. When in reality, when we do that, actually that's when everybody thrives for the better.
Yeah. I talk a lot about that permission, right? And that if you don't give yourself permission to follow your own path, it's going to come out again, and it's going to come out as resentment towards the very people that you're not giving permission to yourself to protect for, right? So it's going to come out in trying to control your kids or to argue with your spouse or whatever. So, you had in one of your master classes that I saw, you talked about, that it's okay for us as women to have desires that are outside of our family. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and this is something that many women who come to me are very conflicted with, because the women who come to me are ones who have this fire in their belly about wanting to work. They feel like being a mom is important and the kids can't go back. So it's kind of a one-way ticket. So I have the kids, but there's another side of me that needs to be fulfilled, and being at home just isn't enough. And it's okay. It's enough for some people, and that's perfectly okay. But for some women, they need more. There's a side of them that, whether it's ambition or a desire to make an impact in the world or a desire to be their own boss and start their own business, whatever that is, if that flame isn't fanned in some way, to your point, they usually end up then being resentful of the family. They just feel like rubbish. And then they end up failing at the one thing they're sacrificing, their passion, to be supposedly a good and present mother. And they don't even end up doing that, which makes them feel even worse, which then we get into this negative spiral of, oh my gosh, I can never get out of, and I'm just stuck down a really big hole. And yet we're told, when you're down a hole, keep digging. just keep working harder, keep trying harder, bake cookies from scratch. And we just find ourselves getting deeper and deeper. And that's usually when we wake up one day and think, I'm so far down the hole, I can't even see the sky anymore. So it's about really, how do we reverse that? And to your point, give ourselves permission to actually put ourselves first, and that it's okay to have dreams, to have goals, to have desires. That makes you human. And ultimately, it's funny because if we think about, what you usually want for your children is to follow their dreams and to be happy. And yet we will never take the same advice, especially if we have daughters. We would never say, you're going to sacrifice every single dream and ambition and goal you have for your children. We would say, I want you to be a mum, and if that's what you want to do, good for you. But if we could see the side of our children dying and withering on the vine, we would say, what are you doing? You need to go out and fuel whatever this is for you. You need to go and chase that. And yet we can't give ourselves permission to do the same. So often I say, if we can talk to ourselves the way we talk to our children, everything would change.
Absolutely. That's something that I talk about often. It's like, if you can't say it to the kids, don't say it to you. Right. Yeah. And so, when somebody is in that hole and they're like, I'm lost. It's like, I have a desire, but I'm just like, I'm so either afraid, or there's so much stigma, like there's so many cultural influences that just don't allow me to push through that barrier. What would be like the first place that this person would start? Like, what would be like the one thing that they could do to kind of switch, like instead of continue digging down, to just be like, oh, and try at least to go up that hole?
I think one of the first things we need to do is to get better at using our time, and to find the time and the headspace to be able to indulge in these conversations or these dreams or these ambitions without guilt. So if it's somebody who maybe is a stay-at-home mom, or maybe has a part-time job somewhere and they've got these dreams of running their own business or doing something for themselves, it's how do you get more intentional with your time? We all get the same 168 hours a week. You've heard this before. It's up to us how we spend them. And so if we spend them running after other people, how do we carve out that time for us to say, you know what, for me, the big thing is choice. So I might be sitting in a car waiting for my kids to finish soccer practice, but right now I've got 30 minutes and I can waste them on the time vampire that is social media, and suddenly, poof, they disappeared. Or I can say, I've got 30 minutes. There is nowhere else I should be. Right now, I should be sitting and thinking of whether it's planning, brainstorming, researching. This is what I need to do to carve out that little bit of space for me. And usually it's not just the time, it's the headspace. It's the thinking room. It's the no guilt attached, no judgment, no shame. This is now for me, and I'm going to think about what I want for myself. And if you can even carve out 2 or 3 of those in a week, ideally more, but if that's the bare minimum that you can do, even if that means you turn off the TV and you go to bed at 9:30 instead of 10:30, you're carving out that space to dream and to work out what might be possible. And it's only when we're not solid in what we want, and this is what most women who come to me, they don't know what they want. And so they look to others to say, well, what should I want? And then society says one thing, and your parents might say something else, and then Instagram says something else. And you're like, I don't think I want any of that, because we aren't grounded in who we are and what we want.
Awesome. So like, I hear a lot, I'm in groups of stay-at-home moms and groups of working moms. I mean, my whole day is around moms. And there's a lot of talk about balance, like, how do you balance work and personal life? And then there's the team, like, balance is bullshit. And I am the team, like, you can have it all. Like, you really can. So what is it? Do you feel like you can have it all? Like, or are there do you have to give up certain things in order for you to have both, like your business, your career, and your family?
Well, my big mantra is, it is possible to have it all without doing it all, because usually that's what ends up happening. In order to have it all, we need to, but usually our definition of have it all is not our own. It's having it all means my own business, the perfect house, the white picket fence, the organic home cooked meals, the children in beautifully ironed linen clothes who aren't dirty and who never fight, and the husband who we look longingly into each other's eyes over a sunset dinner, and then the gym and the body. So our mind construct of what all is not really our own. So for me, it's been about how do I help people work out what all is for them. So what does that look like from a business perspective? What does that mean from a house perspective? Because if you spend your life chasing others' dreams, you're going to wind up feeling empty. So in my case, I teach my clients, usually one of the big things that holds people back is that the house is going to fall apart. Mm-hmm. So the laundry's never going to get done and the meals aren't going to be made. And so there are sacrifices that you have to make. I mean, a lot of women tell me, I want a neat and tidy house. And if my inbox isn't clean and my house isn't clean, I can't think properly. Well, the house is never clean. If you have children, it's never going to be tidy. And therefore, you are never going to feel good and you are never going to get headspace. So we need to learn to let that go. And we need to revisit our expectations of what's possible. I'm not suggesting you have to suddenly start living in a pigsty, but I am saying it's about what are your priorities, what are your family's priorities? And if it means that the washing basket has to stay on the floor for one more night because you want to do some planning for your business, that's what you choose to do. And you have to learn to be okay with that.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's say that you've decided, okay, I'm going to be kinder with myself, right? And I'm going to accept certain things. And God forbid, I might even ask for help, in terms of the laundry. I know, the shocker. I have 2 teenage boys and I'm like, why don't they do more again? But anyway, so you have that headspace and then you're like, okay, I'm going to, from 9 to 9:30 after dinner, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to think. And then you sit down and then nothing happened. You're like you can't think because you're still like, do you have a way, like a trick, because that happens to me all the time. It's like, I'll carve out time and then I sit there. I'm like, so is there like a way to transition? I don't know. Is there any tip that can help me with that?
So I tend to find with my clients that the times we get to think tend to be quite small blocks because life's busy and we've got kids. And so what you're almost better off doing is, let's say you've got something that you want to plan. How do you carve out some space? Maybe it's on the weekend where you can get a couple of hours to think, when you can get into flow and everything starts coming. Now, rather than just getting cracked into the work, you spend that time planning. And I like to work, my favorite time management strategy is Pomodoros. Have you heard of what a Pomodoro is?
No.
So Pomodoro is Italian for tomato. I don't know if you've grown up, but when I was little, my grandmother had one of those old kitchen timers that was a red tomato, and there was a top that was a cake timer, and so you'd turn it. And the idea is you work in between 25 and 45-minute blocks of activity. And in that 25 to 45 minutes, you turn everything off. No emails, no socials, no phone, no texting, no nothing, no interruptions. And for that 25 to 45 minutes, you just head down, bum up, and you go hard. And what makes this a game changer is if you're concentrating on big things, I'm not talking about folding laundry, there's these things on most playlists called binaural beats. Don't know if you've heard of them. So I put binaural beats in, which then synchronizes your brain waves. And when you're operating in a 25 to 45 minute time block, you can then get probably 3 hours of work done because you get focused. But what we have to do is we have to do the planning up front to then say, all right, here are all the things that I might want to do. If I'm starting a business, maybe I need to do some market research. Maybe I need to reach out to my network. How do you then almost carve up, here's the work I need to do in a bunch of blocks so that when I sit down at 9 o'clock, I'm not thinking, oh, so much to do. Where do I even begin? Oh, I've got a notification from a friend. I might just text them. And then so if we've done a little bit of planning and we know that, all right, over the next month, here are 6 Pomodoros that I want to fit in, then, and you've prioritized them, then what happens is you sit down and you go, right, it's 9 o'clock. My next Pomodoro is market research. So you can then sit down, everything off. All I need is 40 minutes, 30 minutes is all I've got. Okay, this is what I'm doing. And I then get moving and I don't procrastinate and I know exactly where to start. So I think that's one of the biggest ways I talk about catching rabbits because there's a great old Confucius quote that talks about, I've made it female oriented, but she who chases 2 rabbits catches none. And when we are continually trying to find a million things at once, we never catch anything. So we need to say for the next 30 minutes, this is what I'm doing, get ruthlessly efficient, get our brain really synced in. And over time, I've now trained my brain so that when I put my headphones in with my binaural beats, I just go straight into hyper-productive mode. And I Pomodoro my linen cupboard. I Pomodoro the fridge. because I don't know about you, but I used to find I'd go to put the towels away, open the linen cupboard and go, oh, it's not folded properly. And then I'd take them out and I go, oh, the electric blankets need to be put away. It's summer here. They're in the other room. I'll go and get this. Then I open that cupboard. I go, oh, Christmas paper wrapping. Yeah, I need to put that away. And then there's a photo. And then before I know it, 4 hours has gone past. And I've actually made a worse mess in about 6 rooms. So I've not actually achieved anything. So now what I do is I say, all right, set timer on my phone, 20 minutes. I'm going to Pomodoro the linen cupboard. I don't leave the linen cupboard. I'm not allowed to leave that 1 square meter and make a mess. And then I found recently, because I did this, I Pomodoro my linen cupboard, cleaned it out, refolded things, put things where they should be in 13 minutes.
That's awesome.
So rather than making a bomb of a mess and creating more work, and then you sit down at 9:30 and you go, I've been cleaning for 3 hours and the place is still a complete mess. And I've now just found 6 more jobs. Oh, look, there's last year's school photos that I still haven't digitized. Oh, I better get onto that, add that to my list. Not a priority. Stay focused, do the one thing, do it well, and then we get to celebrate and say, next time I go to put my towels away, I can go, and that's how we spend 13 minutes getting our linen cupboard fixed. And we now have another 2 hours that we just would have spent fluffing and procrastinating to put into our business or what we want to think about. So that for me is the game changer.
Right. I'm going to have to borrow the Pomodoro. I think I'll have to, yeah, that's great. So now, how did you come to all of this?
So it's been a journey, let's just say, and an enjoyable one. And I wouldn't have it any other way, because this is how we get to where we are. I've always been the breadwinner. So ever since, I've got 2 girls who are 10 and 7. And ever since I had my first, in Australia, we have a lot longer parental leave than the US. So I had 6 months off, which was considered short. So no, my first, I had 9 months off. Most people take 12. And my husband then took 3 months off paid. So he had 3 months paid parental leave as a man. And after that, he then wanted to go back part-time. So for me, juggling, and then he's been stay at home. He's had health issues. Suddenly being the person where I'm the breadwinner and he's at home, and him working part-time was like, okay, there's this extra pressure, and I didn't have anybody I could talk to. And so a whole range of mindset coaching that I've been on the journey for many years. I've been I've been in corporates for a long time before I started this business. So every single leadership program, I've done a master's, I've done everything. It's putting everything together for me, and then leveraging off my amazing network now, my amazing network globally and locally, to then say what's working for women like us. And it's usually a lot of the stuff that's out there just makes us feel bad and just gives an excuse to beat ourselves up, because the strategies are usually coined by men who are very good at focusing on one thing at a time, because they're not trying to cook dinner while fill in a school note for crazy sock day for tomorrow, while trying to rummage out the hat for book week, and then writing down on their shopping list that they need more milk.
Yeah.
And then amongst all this, we're trying to think about, I want to grow a business, or I want to develop myself. So we've got to find ways to fit all these strategies into our lives and how our brains think.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I always tell people on a call is like, because I think, I move people from being mom, like we all have multiple identities, right? We're different things. We're daughters, we're wives, we're mothers, we're this, we're that. But I say, we need to move you from mom, and from being mom and thinking like a mom, to a mompreneur, which is different than an entrepreneur, because a guy that starts his business isn't going to have all that stuff that you just said, or is not going to have a toddler, pulling on his leg, and he's not going to have any guilt that goes with it, which, I think like we're so masterful at mom guilt. So I feel like the more people like you help moms, overcome these things so that they can have it, whatever all means to them, right? And let go some of these stories so that they can win, then the more empowered all of us are going to be. So
definitely. And my big thing is, how do I ensure that we're bringing up, this generation of us current mums, and even what role models are we being for our children, whether they be sons or daughters, to be able to teach them that they can build whatever life they want. They're not beholden to what society or various cultures say they should be, and that if we can all be our best selves, that's when we're going to be truly happy, which means we're going to be actually the best mums that we can be. And that's really what we all want.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, I think we all, regardless of whether you're a stay-at-home mom or working mom, a high executive or this or that, like at the end of the day, like what we want is, to be the best moms that we could be. Like, so that we just actually, I think like what we all want is for our kids to be happy, that it doesn't, I think like we all can put ourselves second because like that's the goal, right? But, and I guess your message is like, we don't have to put ourselves second in the sense that we don't have to give up our dreams for our kids to be happy. They can be happy, and we like they'll be the happiest when mom's happy. Like in the US, there's a saying, it's like, if mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. And it's very true.
Very, very much the case. And it's how are you going to be a good role model for happiness and for chasing your dreams and for reaching your potential if you're sitting there stifling your own and being grumpy and resentful in the process? So exactly to your point, you invest in yourself, you invest time, headspace, chasing whatever it is that you want, and then you're going to have a happy family and you're going to raise happy little munchkins.
Yeah. So you know what? Let me put over here in case somebody is a breadwinner and wants to know more about you. It's Blissful Breadwinner, right?
Yeah, blissfulbreadwinner.com.
If I could spell, give me one. Okay, so I'm going to put it over here as a banner. I think I put it as a banner. No. Of course, I try to do this live. Yeah. So I will put it in the comments because clearly I'm messing up. And so if you want, if you are the breadwinner of your family and you want some help figuring out how that looks like because you're drowning in your things to do, like Jo is the person to go to, like by far. So hit her up. Her classes are amazing. And Jo, I'm so grateful that you came and talked to us today. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
All right. And you guys, I'll see you guys later.